West Ham are European champions. I know it's not the UEFA Champions League or even the Europa League, but I don't think any of us can be too snobbish here when we talk about what West Ham have actually achieved this season. It's a first major honour in 43 years, and I think just from the parade and everything else, you can see what a big deal this has actually meant to West Ham fans. Here to discuss it with me is my good friend Dan. Obviously, Dan, you're an Arsenal fan. Arsenal, sorry to rub salt in the wounds, haven't actually won a European trophy, and I think that maybe from what I know of you, maybe this would be a competition that you wouldn't be too buzzing to win because of the stature of your club, Premier League titles, and obviously the success of your club over time. How big of an achievement is it winning this Conference League for West Ham?
Well, firstly, Arsenal have won a European competition.
Have they?
Yeah, Cup Winners' Cup, mate. 94 against Parma.
Cup Winners' Cup. So how did you get in a Cup Winners' Cup without winning a European competition?
Well,
how did that work?
Well, so then again, it was like, so back then you had obviously your European Cup, which was the one with the big ears. Then you had the UEFA Cup, and then you had what was known as the Cup Winners' Cup. So the domestic winners of, like, you know, the FA Cup or the League Cup,
right,
would go into that competition.
Okay.
So we beat them. But that's
you should get it tattooed on you.
Yeah, don't need it, mate. It's all there. It's all there. But in terms of what West Ham have done now, going back to West Ham, that's kind of the equivalent of what they've done. They've won, like, you know, it's a decent trophy for them. I think at the beginning, like, everyone was kind of mocking it, like, oh, you know, it's like a farmers league, this, that, and the other. But football's kind of come around full circle, because everyone was complaining that, oh, it's all about the Champions League and da-da-da. Now we've got Europa League and then this new one. Well, we've got our 3 European trophies back again. They're just under, you know, 2 of them under different names. Yeah. But they're essentially the same thing. So for West Ham to do it, I think they got to the semis of the Europa last season.
Yeah, they should have won that Europa.
Yeah, they should have done. But
you look at, what was it? They went out to Frankfurt.
Yes.
Frankfurt won it? Or did Roma win it? No, Roma won the conference.
Yeah, Roma won the
Frankfurt won that. Beat Rangers in the final.
So, I mean, for them to have that, you can tell that they've, like, gone, do you know what? We're going to take this seriously. Because they were so close. And they didn't play badly. Some good results along the way. But, yeah, this season they've really gone at it. I wasn't really fussed about watching the final. But when I did watch it, it was just like your typical sort of cagey opening. Then West Ham get a goal. And then it's like, oh, they could do this. And then Fiorentina get a goal back. And then you're thinking, oh, Fiorentina, they're on the... But then obviously Jared Bowen, what, you know, to finish that in like the last minute and go through like that and score with the West Ham fans in front of him, I mean, it's magic stuff. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's about. So for them and their generation of fans now, who, let's be fair, you say 43 years, some of their fans would never have seen things like that since like they were like. So for them to have that moment, for West Ham as a club and all its supporters to have that moment, I think it's great. It's a madness. And I'm happy for them.
I think it's fucking quality.
I think it's good.
It's quality.
You know, I don't sit there. I'm not one of them people who's like, oh well, you know, I'm not supporting another English team. Look, let's have it right. I weren't sitting there with a hammer scarf on, fucking cheering them on and blowing bubbles in my living room. I was just watching it as a game of football.
Did you sing the Danny Dyer song?
Oh, I did find it funny.
Did you see his thing when he goes, sort of a fucking compliment, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's on fire, which is fucking good. And he's shagging Danny Dyer. He goes, I'm starting it off down at West Ham.
Yeah. I mean, you know, fair play to him for being that open. I don't think I could laugh that much if it was one of my daughters. But anyway, you know, fair play to the man. But
he has shagged my sister on screen. He actually has, hasn't he? My sister was in the Football Factory.
Oh, no.
She gets done by Danny Dyer's character.
Callback. But yeah, I mean, listen, people who put the competition down or dig out West Ham fans for over-celebrating or whatever the fuck that is,
no.
Most of the other teams in the league would bite your hand off to have a night like that, or just European nights. There's a Crystal Palace podcast I follow, and he was like saying, look, do you know what? I would love to see Palace in that.
Brighton next season in the Europa. Imagine that.
There you go.
It's quality. Like, I actually remember, something you said to me. We were talking about Arsenal once, and you said something about him being a part of FA Cup wins, and I went, yeah, what's an FA Cup though? And you went, listen, you'll like them FA Cups quite soon, whatever. I'd fucking love an FA Cup next season as a Chelsea fan. I'd love an FA Cup. That'd be quality.
It goes back to what you were saying, like when we were talking about Tottenham tapping out of the European competition and stuff like that. You got to give these competitions respect.
Yeah.
You've got to want to go into it and win it.
Fiorentina are decent.
Yeah. decent.
Alkmaar?
Yeah.
They're decent enough.
Decent sides. I mean, look, to beat Fiorentina, which is a big name in European football.
Yeah.
West Ham are going to love that. It's not like they beat somebody from like Uzbekistan and thrashed them like 6-0. Do you know what I mean? They've had to play some tough games.
A little bit of like one man's trash is another man's treasure, isn't it?
Yeah, but as I say, a lot of people would love to have been in West Ham's position. So
would you, as an Arsenal fan, would you have liked to win that competition?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, once you get past any kind of group stage and you start going through the rounds, you want to win it. As I've always said it, like, I don't see the point of being in a competition if you're only going to half-arse it, because you're going to get found out, you're going to get kicked out, and in the end, it's like, well, what are you even doing here?
Well, it's like, imagine if you're a boxer and you go, yeah, I lost to him, but he was shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
it's
what
like,
I mean.
no, you beat them. You fucking beat them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's all that kind of weirdness that you get other fans, because, it's kind of a bit of jealousy, I think. They're kind of looking in through the window going, oh, I'd love a bit of that. And you're never going to get it.
That Europa League, obviously, you said about having 3 European Cups back, yeah?
Yeah.
So obviously, Champions League, UEFA Cup.
Yeah, Cup Winners' Cup.
Europa League, whatever. For a while, we had that Intertoto Cup, didn't we? And I remember, when I was young, my best pal when I was younger was a season ticket holder at Fulham. So I used to go to a lot of Fulham matches. Actually, funny enough, I went to a lot of Fulham matches during that Europa League run they had.
Yeah.
But around that time, from 11 to 16, I went to a lot of Fulham matches. Probably nearly half as many matches as I did Chelsea.
Yeah.
And one thing, and I'm guilty of joining in with it, we used to sing about the Intertoto. Yeah, we used to sing about the fact that, I say we, they, and I used to join in. We used to sing about the Intertoto Cup that they had won. But obviously, actually, I never really knew much about it because I don't really remember it, sort of thing. When I look back on it, that Intertoto Cup, you know how many winners there were?
No.
Every season it went on, they used to have 3 winners. So who's a winner? Like, if you've got 3 people winning, say, who's a winner? So, in my opinion, that Europa Conference League has already outshone that Intertoto Cup as the 3rd European competition.
Yeah, it's got to. And again, I think what you'll probably find now, especially within the sort of maybe like the top five leagues in Europe, people are going to start upping their game because they want to get into it. They've just seen West Ham, who, let's be having it right, fucking just about avoided relegation.
Yeah.
Win a European trophy. So other teams are looking at that and thinking, do you know what? We need to start. And then it galvanises competition, all that kind of stuff, in my personal opinion. But, and then also I think what it should do, I'm hoping the cascade effect, not in just the European sense, is that teams like West Ham, Palace, Brentford, when it comes to like FA Cup games or Carabao Cup games or League Cup games, whatever you want to call it, that they go in full throttle.
Yep.
Because fans want to see that. They want to see that whether the team wins or loses in the final, they want to be part of those moments. They want to be in the conversation. So it's like, well, don't disrespect the competition. Even like teams like, Arsenal, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, don't disrespect it.
We've won 2 Europa Leagues, as you know, beat you lot in the final, and that's like something that who did we face in the other final? Benfica. But when we beat you lot, it was like a bit more of like, sweep, celebrate, that sort of thing. But there's no need to be snobbish about it. And football and sport in general is about the feeling that it gives you, yeah? If not, why are Everton fans invading the pitch when they finish 17th rather than 18th? You know what I mean? You've had an awful season. You invade the pitch. And that's not me digging them out. I would do the same. I'd be on that pitch. You know what I mean? Because it's about the feeling it gives you. It's not so much about, is it the elite of the elite or whatever? Like, my mate's a 21-year-old virgin and he finally loses it. I'm not going to go, she weren't very good though, was she? I'm going to go, come on. You know what I mean?
Just let the man have his nut. Do you know what I mean? But no, listen, it's people that do that say, oh, well, it's not the Champions League, is it? Or whatever. It's just like, oh, go on.
How many matches do you go to, mate?
That's the telltale sign of someone who don't go to games.
Don't understand watches the atmosphere.
It's for people that have gone to stadiums. I'm not saying that, like, for those out there who really support their club and have never been to a stadium, there's obviously reasons behind that. Money, logistics, whatever. But there's something about that feeling, being part of a group, a collective, win, lose or draw, being in some fantastic nights, whether it's like just a league game where you win 4-3 and you score the last minute winner, you're jumping round next to someone, you don't really know them, but you've got a vibe. And then obviously putting a trophy on top of that, that's a sprinkling, that's decent. And I think that brings, as you said, that's the feeling that people want. So I think, West Ham, hopefully, fair play to them for winning it. I hope what they've done inspires other clubs now to say, do you know what? Let's get our serious head on. Let's not rest 4 and 5 players for this game. Let's fucking try and do it. And then hopefully they can reap the benefit.
To cap it off, what does it mean for David Moyes? Because I think that without this trophy in the Europa Conference League this season, we'd be having serious conversations about Moyes' future, wouldn't we? I mean, you look at this season, yeah. They won 11 league games. They won 12 games in the Conference League. Do you know what I mean? So they've won more games in that competition than they did in this season. And as you touched upon before, you're right to say that they actually did have like not a tunnel vision, but a business-like attitude about that Conference League. And maybe that gives weight to the point that they've won more in that Conference League. But I think if they hadn't won that cup and they hadn't gone deep in that cup and had the nights they've experienced, we'd be having conversations about maybe him moving on now. What's that mean for him? Say next season, yeah? If you're a West Ham fan, would you take finishing safe? You're not getting relegated, but in the exact same sort of position, around 15th or something. Would you take that if it meant that in that Europa League you were going to go deep and have a chance of winning that? Or would you say, nah, do you know what? Like, I'd rather be back where we were 2-3 seasons ago when we were pushing that top 4 a little bit. Top 6, definitely.
In terms of David Moyes, I think, I was made up for the guy. Like, when I see him, like, celebrating and that, I think his dad was in the crowd. Like, it meant a lot to him. And I think he's taken such a long journey, because don't forget, back in sort of like 2004, 2005, he got Everton to the sort of qualifiers for the Champions League. Then tipped.
They went out, didn't they?
They went out. It was first round. Yeah. It was a piss poor thing. But at that time, I think he'd been manager at Preston before. He was starting to get a bit of a name for himself, and he was doing really well at Everton.
Before he went grey, wasn't he? Still had ginger hair,
yeah,
remember?
Yeah, that's it, old carrot top. But then obviously, tipped for Man United job. I think that was probably the worst thing that ever happened, because he had such a tough act to follow.
That's it, yeah.
And then it was just like, stumbling. So it's good to see him get his moment in the sun. I think, as you rightly said, flip of a coin, they don't go that far, and they perform like they did in the league, we'd be having a conversation of like, who's taking over at West Ham? Because he'd be gone. They would have sacked him, my personal opinion, or he would have left. One of the two, he wouldn't be there. But now he's given himself a platform. He can now go to the owners and say, right, if you want us to progress now, we're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to have to spend the money. We're going to have to, obviously they sell Declan Rice. It's then managing that money and who they get in, and the recruitment is key.
They have spent a bit of money, to be fair.
Yeah.
Skamaka.
Yeah.
What's the boy?
Paqueta, yeah.
It looks like, apart from Rice as well, you don't see there being a fire sale of players. Like,
No.
sometimes, like, say, for example, a very famous one, when Porto won the Champions League, straight away, take away 5 of them players. When Monaco went deep in the Champions League that time, straight away, take away 7 of their first team. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really look like that at West Ham.
No.
Obviously, Rice is going to go. They've known that. They've been able to prepare for it.
Yeah.
I reckon next season they could get a top 10 finish, have a Europa League run.
Yeah.
And they could be happy with that, because, as we said before, it's about experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about the experience.
If you go knockout stages and you give the fans those away days,
that's it. That's what they
even
want.
if you run up short with a bit of pride.
That's it. And then that finishes off like what, the question that you're asking is like, what would a West Ham fan want? I mean, I'm not a West Ham fan, but I think as a football fan, I wouldn't want to just settle then going back to mediocrity. I would want to say, right, well, we've done that and we had a shit season. So what could we possibly achieve if we have a semi-decent season in the top half of the table and have that kind of run again? So it's about, like, the fans now are going to have an expectation. They're going to want you to do well, and that's down to everybody at the club to sort of like take them to that next level. But like I say, West Ham next season, I think most West Ham fans would be like biting your hand off if you say finish 9th, but you're semi-final again in the Europa League. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They would take that.
Of course.
So, but I think again, if West Ham went out early of Europe, but they finish in the top 7,
he'd still be in a job.
He'd still be in a job, but again, them sort of being challenging in the top half of the table. I mean, again, they'd like it, but I think any football fan would say, if it ends with a trophy, yeah, I'll take that one.
Firstly, a very big congratulations to everyone at West Ham Football Club and all of the fan base from myself and Dan. And secondly, I'd be very, very interested to hear from the West Ham fans. I want to hear about your experiences on the away days. I want to hear exactly how you think next season's going to go for you. And most of all, do you think, bearing in mind you reached a semi-final before in that Europa League, and I actually had you as my favourites at the time out of the 4 teams remaining in it to go on and win it, do you think you can go one step further and win next season's Europa League? Let me know in the comments. I will be in the comments as soon as this video drops. I'll be replying to every single one of you, so please put your comments in and let me know your thoughts on this video. Do me a massive favour, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get a notification every time one of my videos goes live, and I will see you all in the next one.